Martha Scanlan from Minnesota originally. How did you first get to the state of Montana? What brought you there for the first time?
I spent a lot of time there when I was a kid. My great-grandfather worked on the railroad and came out at the turn of the century, and my grandparents lived there. And so on one side of my family, there's been a connection with Montana.
Yeah. And then you had that job working as a wilderness guide for troubled youth or something like that? Did I make that up?
I did, yeah. I made a lateral career move from that to musician.
Yeah.
And from that to cowboying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got like the trifecta going on.
I'm just trying to understand. So here you are, you're a young woman, you're deeply entrenched in the wilderness and nature and the land in Montana. And then suddenly this Eastern Tennessee State University in Johnson City lures you in somehow. What was that? How did you even figure that out?
That was, I was really into old time music, and my boyfriend at the time wanted to take courses there, and so
take courses there.
Yeah, at the college.
Yeah, I thought you said he wanted to take horses there.
No, he did not want to take horses.
Okay, just.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Anyways, we did not travel by horseback to East Tennessee, although it's quite a concept. Yeah, like the opposite of Manifest Destiny, like
right.
Going backwards. Yeah, so anyways, one thing that was really beautiful to me about living in East Tennessee was just, and astonishing really, is this kind of just how much of a part, how connected landscape and music and culture is.
Yeah.
And
how multi-generational it is.
Yeah, very much so.
Because once you're playing old-time music and you're really trying to get in deep and trying to understand what's going on in the community, you can't help but bump into elders who know more and have been there longer and know all that stuff. Right?
Yeah, and that's a really lovely thing.
And then from there, you had your more than a flirtation. You had a real commitment with the Real-Time Travelers. You were living around there, Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then you decided to do the boomerang back to Montana.
Yeah, I as much as I loved living in East Tennessee, and it was great for writing songs because I wrote songs about missing the West, kind of influenced by people that wrote songs about missing other places and people, so it's kind of this legacy of longing. Yeah. So I moved back to Montana and ended up on this ranch that's been in the same family for 120 years. And
have you always been like a horse person? You're comfortable on horseback?
Yeah.
Pretty much always.
Yeah, I was one of those kids that was obsessed with horses.
Yeah.
And drew horses and played horses, and with my one other friend that was as obsessed with horses.
And now you're a cowboy kind of, right? You're on horseback, you're working cattle, you're on this ranch.
Well, it's hard to say that during branding season when I'm here with you.
Oh, boy.
And there's other people working really hard.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I love that work so much, and it's been a lovely, it's just a nice balance with music. And with this last record that we did, I realized, I felt like I was taking a break from music, but I was kind of writing these songs the whole time.
Now, in the cowboy culture that you've immersed yourself in Montana, are poetry and music a part of that world?
Yeah, very much so.
So when you're done with a long day, do people tell stories and tales and sing?
Yeah, and just kind of throughout the day.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that's really beautiful about it, is that, like, I work with an older cowboy. He's 84, I guess you could call him older. But he can be telling me a story about a place we're riding, and it could have happened 100 years ago, or it could have happened 10 years ago, or it could have happened a month ago. And it just hasn't changed that much. And just even the names of places all have stories. And I just think it's so important to preserve those places because we're connected to them.
Are you one of the few women in that scene?
No, there's quite a few.
Yeah.
And a lot of, interestingly, kind of in the ranching community where I live, there's a lot of women who started out ranching with their husbands, and their husbands died young, and they ended up ranching by themselves for, 30 years or so.
And it's pretty rugged country.
It is, yeah.
And it's in south central Montana, sort of? Is that kind of where it is?
It's kind of the
Southeast.
corner of Montana,
Okay.
and the Tongue River Valley is really beautiful. It's a really productive valley. We're facing, it's funny, I was talking to James about this earlier, but there's been a long-standing kind of battle with industry wanting to take over that area in the Tongue River Valley, and it goes back like 40 years, and there's just been a really kind of strong network of kind of grassroots, just a real grassroots network of ranchers and farmers that have preserved that place for agriculture and heritage for a long time.
In case you've just joined us, you're listening to eTown here with Martha Scanlan. So I suspect that if we talk about land conservation and preservation, as you just did, a family that's had 5 generations working the same piece of land or whatever it is must know something about what that land is about, and what wildlife is about, what that water flow is like, what those life cycles of that land is about.
Yeah.
So they're essentially involved with conservation.
Yeah, very much so. And the guy that I work with and work for always reminds me, I mean, he always has great things that he talks about, but one of them is that, we're not in the cattle business, we're in the grass growing business. And just, figuring out how to preserve springs, and, we really rely on the aquifers.
As a worldly person, do you ever find yourself on the opposite side of a sort of heated conversation about those pesky environmentalists or that kind of thing? I mean, when there's that sort of typical stereotype about what conservation means, or what land preservation means, or what sustainability means even. And we get the impression that some ranchers and some Western political leaders don't find themselves on the same side of that conversation, when in fact, if you step back a minute, it seems like they should be.
Yeah, and I think that that's an interesting, I think that it's good to kind of step back and think about why that is the conversation. Why is it land versus jobs? And there's actually a lot of jobs, Montana, right now, Montana's main source of income and the strongest part of our economy is agriculture. And I think it's a great conversation for people to be involved in, especially ranchers and, quote, environmentalists, because I think it is very much common interest, and I think it's really important to support agricultural people that are tied to the land, and for people who consider themselves environmentalists or on that side of the thing to consider what it's like to care for a piece of land that, children are buried on.
Yeah.
And all their people are connected to. And people are trying to hold on to a piece of land that, people have gone broke over, have broken backs over. I mean, people love that land.
Mm-hmm. And you're pretty close to the border, not far from the border with Wyoming, right?
Yeah, very
so,
close.
So the other side of the border, Sheridan, that kind of world, is that getting close to coal country?
Oh, we're kind of in the thick of coal country, and that's really what is being debated right now in the area where I live.
Yeah, energy, extractive industries,
Yeah, so it's important conversations to have.
Well, good luck with that, and good luck being somebody who's a poet and a singer and a storyteller, and somebody who can kind of bring communities together, because ultimately that's what has to happen. Right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Last thing before we get back to music, I know you did a Kickstarter campaign for this new CD. You had to pay for John. He looks expensive.
He's very expensive. It was that's more social than I've ever been in my whole life.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you about that, because you seem kind of like a private person, and to say out to the universe online, hey, strangers, give me some money for my new CD project. That's bold.
Yeah, people were so great. Actually, I mean, people were very good about carrying the message. Yeah. I did use more. I think I kind of used all of the exclamation points that were allotted in one lifetime.
Yeah.
So I don't have any more for this.
No, that's fine. We can keep this. We can keep this low key here. But then once you get people to give you money, do you feel obligated or guilty? You have to say, okay, I'll come and make dinner for you, or I'll sing a song for you in your house, or I'll send you a copy of, a picture of me on a horse, or stuff like that. Did you have to do all that stuff?
Yeah, and you know, but that's kind of part of the fun thing, and the funnest thing is just sharing the music with people.
Right. Yeah.
And just that sense of gratitude around people having been a part of that just lends a whole kind of energy to the recording process.
Yeah. Well, James was talking earlier about the music business changing and about the fact that these record company advances, he was very grateful for them because he never sold enough records to pay the record companies back. And of course, these are investors in your new CD, and they don't expect money back, but they believe in you, they believe in this project, and they get to share in it and feel a sense of ownership and connection to it. And
Yeah.
that's a device that didn't used to exist for musicians. So I think it's interesting that it's fairly common now, and it works. It's great.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I think that, I'm really grateful for it.
Would you do it again on your next CD?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'll have to think about it.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of time and a lot of quiet.
Actually, there were so many great people. Yeah, I probably would. It's just when we remember all the exclamation points.
Right. Yeah, all the angst. Well, it worked. You made a good record. You made a really beautiful record.
Thank
and,
you.
You and John made that record, and you recorded it in Portland, but brought in some great friends and helpers, and it's a nice piece of work.
Thank you.
Well, let's hear some more of it. Welcome back, if you would, Martha Scanlan. Hi, this is Nick Forster from eTown. If you want to stay up to date with all the performances, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, click the subscribe button. Thanks.